Hi everyone and welcome. Jack Brookhart's here, CEO of the Motion Property Group, and we welcome you to another video in the series of how property can help you achieve independent and financial independence. The first part of what we should talk about really is the hype that's in the media, general discussions about, it's a good news, it's a bad news week, whatever it is. Ignore the hype. The reality is property will continue in one direction over a long period of time, and it will have its ups and downs. So just make a decision based on facts and information that you've gained from various sources. First question is really, I suppose, why invest in property and why do it now? Well, the fact of the matter is this. This is a long-term concept. You need time to develop a strong investment portfolio. The sooner you start, the less difficult that climb will be over a period of time. Starting now simply means that you will be able to achieve your goals in a reasonable period of time. The later you start, the harder it becomes. So a question I ask you, and I suppose everybody asks, is what makes an effective investment strategy? Well, the investment strategy that you undertake is going to depend on a number of personal factors. First, understand your financial position. It's something that we don't look at on a regular basis. Some people look at it more frequently than others, but the fact is you should know what your borrowing capacity is. Have a look at if you've got a family home, what's the equity? The equity is basically the difference between the value of your home and the amount of money you owe on your mortgage. Now, if you've got a reasonable amount of equity, that already gives you borrowing power. Understand what the income levels that you will need to achieve in order to maintain your investment property. So getting a good understanding is probably one of the first steps. Before you purchase a property, decide, for instance, what your borrowing capacity is, what the outgoings and the maintenance of the property are going to be, what's your tax position, and which properties are you going to buy. In addition to that, you've got to understand gearing. There are three options with gearing. You've got positive, neutral, and negative gearing. So what is gearing in itself, and what is, for instance, positive gearing? Well, positive gearing is a situation where your income exceeds your expenses, and therefore you have an excess over and above your expenses. That's called positive. Neutral is where your expenses match your income on the property. There's a neutral gearing situation. And then a negatively geared situation is one where your expenses exceed your income. Now, there are reasons why people might want to have a strategy relating to gearing, either positive, neutral, or negative. For instance, negatively geared properties generally have smaller yield but larger capital growth, whereas positively geared properties are the other way around, and usually they have smaller long-term growth but a higher short-term yield. Remember also, when you're calculating your financial position, consider your tax situation and your tax deductions. And this should be something that you discuss with an accountant or a financial advisor. The reality of the matter is this: in paying off your property or in your investment, there are three entities that basically pay for that investment. You've got the tenant, who pays a large portion of it, approximately 60% of your investment. Then you've got the taxman, who will give you rebates for certain eligible deductions, and that might represent anything up to 30% of your total investment, and the balance is made up by you from your personal situation. So take that into consideration when you make your investment decision. Identify the right investment and the right property for you. Now, this is where it becomes interesting, and this is where certainly we can help. When you choose a property, choose it for the right reasons. Don't necessarily buy a property simply because you're familiar with a suburb or the property style suits your personal tastes. At the end of the day, the choice of property should be based obviously on location. Have a look at the demand in the area. The quickest way of determining demand in a particular suburb or location is to have a look at clearance rate at auctions and have a look at the time on market. Days on market, for instance, are a very good guide to whether or not properties are in high or low demand. Properties that are on the market for a very short space of time basically are in high demand. Have a look at, for instance, things like infrastructure, planned infrastructure for the area, hospitals, schools, public transport. Are the amenities close? All of these concepts and all of these aspects will contribute to whether or not you are buying the correct investment property. Let's have a look at the buying process. So in summary, what do you need to do? Well, step number one, you need to be able to understand your own financial situation first and foremost. Second of all, you need to decide on a strategy. What's the reason for buying the property? What's your main motivation? Does it have to do with retirement? Does it have to do with children's education? Does it simply have to do with achieving financial independence? Once you've worked out your strategy and you understand your financial position, then start looking for properties that fit your strategy and that fit the overall pattern of what you're trying to achieve. Once you've done that, come and talk to us, or even better than that, come and talk to us before you've done that and we can show you some of the options. And then make a decision. Don't procrastinate. Only 8% of Australians have investment properties and only 20% of those have more than one investment property. The reality is you should be striving to have a fairly good sized portfolio in order to achieve your financial independence. A good sized portfolio will change from individual to individual, but I would have thought that by the time you're getting close to retirement, somewhere in the vicinity of 5 to 10 properties would be a good outcome and would be certainly something that most people can achieve and should be striving to achieve in their lifetime. Thank you for watching. We are more than happy for you to give me a call. It's been a pleasure presenting you a summary of how I see an investment strategy at the start of an investment strategy in property. If some of the information that I have given you during this brief presentation, which is merely a summary, but if some of that is of interest to you and you would like to start on the path to financial independence, then I strongly recommend and suggest that you register for our webinar, which will contain a lot more information and further in-depth detail about how to create the strategy that we talk about. In the interim, I invite anyone who wishes to discuss this matter further to give me a call. There's no obligation. Whether you give me a call or whether you send me an email, I'm more than happy to respond, and I wish all of you happy investing and a long and successful future.